Just as we added in the images for our slider, we can also add in the dots for our indicators. So going into our builder function, let's create some spans. And you don't have to call it span. I'm just calling it span. It's let, so it's temporary within this block of code using the same method as earlier where we create an element. And this time we're going to create a span. And taking that span, we're going to add a class. So notice before when we added classes, we did set attribute class. So that's one way to add classes. And because we only have the one class that we're adding in, we can use class list. And it's the same way that as if we've selected the object, we can add and remove classes. So in this case, we're adding in a class and the class name is dot. We also want to make these elements interactive. So that's where we take that same object that we just created and we can add an event listener. So again, as if we selected that element that was already existing, we can add in this functionality the same way. So adding in the event listener, and in this case, we're just going to invoke a function called moveSlide, and we're going to pass over the value of x because it's still within this block of code. So x still has a value because with JavaScript you can move out and you can take the value of the variables of the parent. So x has a value, so we're passing in that value of x, which whatever the case might be, it gets passed in. And then lastly, we need to add it in. So just as we selected the element slide container, we can select the indicator, add in span into there. And these ones we should be able to see. So let's open up our browser and we do a quick refresh and there is our indicators. And we also maybe want to apply a little bit more spacing between them. So this is one of those things that once you actually see it, then you can get a better grasp for how much spacing you need. So you see that maybe a little bit more spacing between them is better. And these are all fully dynamic, just as the images. So all dependent on how many images you have within your array. So if you were to, by chance, add in more images, and I'm going to add those, but I'm going to also remove those. You see that we dynamically adjust as well. And that's exactly what we want. We want as much flexibility with our application as possible so that if we do need to update, we don't have to worry as much about the code and we can focus on updating the content instead. So now that we've concluded this lesson, this is where we conclude with the developing of what the visuals are, creating all of the elements. So get familiar with that, try that out. Adding in the event listener is another cool option that you can do to the elements that you're creating on the fly. And then lastly, we need to way to play the slides. So we don't have anything happening quite yet. And we also need to add in the ability to move a slide. So take care of that in the next lesson, and the upcoming lessons will move the slides, animating them.